What's going on, Workforce? Brian here.
Chris here.
And we want to jump in today and talk about Gil. I think one of the most important, exciting moments came from the live letter this weekend is about how there are now these Gillionaire mounts and we don't know yet the cost. And so Chris and I just keep bouncing it back and forth and we're like, that's it. We have to film and talk to you guys about our excitement and where maybe the system could go. And ask the question, is this ultimately enough of a solution for kind of what we've been wanting for Gil in and of itself? And I thought that'd be a really good thing for us to talk about. But first, Chris, tell people what they can win over on our Twitch streams.
Guys, every day we've been hitting an average number of subscribers, and every day starting April 1st, when we stream Monday through Friday, 8 to 2 Central Standard, once we cross that number, we're giving away a Lunar Whale coaster. So it's got a cartoon take on the Lunar Whale, the upcoming mount in Final Fantasy XIV, and a nice place to rest your drink while you're grinding Gil towards these mounts, because today we were shown off the beginning of the next stage of mounts in Final Fantasy XIV, where they're adding another type of mounts, where they are re-releasing mounts that we have already gotten in-game. Starting off with the two they showed were the Scree mount and the Namatsu mount, and but they were both gilded, totally in gold, and they were shooting Gil out of them, and they will be purchasable in-game with Gil. All we know for now is that it will be a lot of Gil, not 1 or 2 million. So for people that look at housing and say, if I only had the Gil to get started, I would have one. Anybody who has done Housing Savage will tell you Gil is only the first step in that form of relic grind. It is the easiest step. It is the poetic step. And as hard as 3 or 40 or whatever amount of Gil you're getting to, once you have it, you find that that's not actually what stops the number of people who want a house from getting one. Well, now that is actually going to be literally the only step to getting these mounts. And it sounds like these numbers are going to be hopefully something very large, hopefully something very aspirational, like the pterodactyl mount tied behind Ishgard and other mounts like that.
Mm-hmm. So guys, if you end up liking this video, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more of these discussion content and more. Or if you feel like it, you can always tickle the dislike button. All choices we would love, just that it helps inform us. I'm trying to get a better job of making sure I say that at the beginning. Chat just continually reminds me, like, don't forget to remind people, because it just works. Yeah. And it's, I'm just bad at it.
We like the bot. On chat on stream. The bot always just
it's like, hey Brian. So when we first saw this, I've been just kind of on a little spinning spree. So I've gone from I typically sit at 10 million, and I've gone and bought all kinds of materia. I've gone and just I'm really trying to push my DPS cap to the limit. I've been buying every set of the crafted gear, so I'm down to 5 million, and I feel fine. I'm not stressed by this at all. And so then I hear this and I go, holy crap, finally I can go and start to work on this. Finally, there's a goal that something that I can work to. And for me, I hope that there's a range of prices, right? I hope that depending on the mount, you'll have maybe a mount that starts at 50 million.
The prices would vary.
Right, good. And so, oh, thank God. I missed that part. I was like, I hope it's not just here's the one price per mount. I'm varying mounts of different prices that are all driven by Gil rather than MGP and some of these other things. And the fact that Yoshi P says, we've heard you guys that Gil doesn't have enough uses. And I was like, yes, this is one of those moments where, as a player in me has said this multiple times, who's been called, horrible things by the community because they're like, Gil's got all these uses for glamour. I hear you. I'm glad that you love it for that. But for me, that's not my driving end game. The friend game is my true end game. Thank you very much. But yeah, so I'm just give me something to save up for. Give me a reason to say, I've got 10 million. Can I get 20? Can I get 30? Because I will. That's the kind of nerdy gamer that I am. But I have to have something. And something like a trophy that just freaking throws Gil around is so poetic. It's so poetic. It's so self-knowledging that it's you're gonna ride this golden gilded mount that's just spewing Gil, and is also a great way to pull that from the economy. I think we've needed this for a long time. Is it enough, Chris? Does this solve the problem? If so, yay. If not, where do you want the system to go?
So it's a short-term fix.
Yeah.
It's very much other games have done this when they put a large, lust-worthy item to crave after that is a single one-time cost. Housing has acted that in the past, assuming there was an infinite amount of it. Anything that is vendor based, there is an infinite amount at this item. First of all, these games suffer from rampant inflation, a level of inflation that if we were in the real world would be alarming. And so what is a lot of Gil today is not a lot of Gil 2 or 3 expansions from now. And we've seen this in MMORPGs because of the way some other systems work. So it's not necessarily an inherently bad thing. It's just a nature of the way these games are designed. Final Fantasy in particular has no long-term use of Gil for the majority of players. The majority of players, there is a finite number of things they want to buy. And so the amount of Gil they sit on is a lot more representative of the way they play and a lot less representative of anything else. Because unlike the real world, there aren't static costs. There is not rent. There is not food. There are not electricity bills. And so there's not these ongoing things where if your character lives in poverty, that's a problem. It doesn't need healthcare. It doesn't, your character just survives. And so if you're comfortable walking around with 100,000 Gil and you don't do anything that generates more Gil than you spend, that's where you'll sit. And there are people who are like, oh my gosh, I've never had more than 1 million. Well, if I give you 1 million, then if your spending is what's keeping that, you'll just dip right back down to where you're comfortable and you'll stay there. Brian and I both historically have sat right around that 10 million mark. We both bounce down to 5 when we find something that for a short time gives us a use. And then it bumps right back up to 10 as we do things that we find generated. Maybe it gives us the drive to do maps. I think the highest I've ever been is 35 at one time. And then I just kind of let it trickle down again. It doesn't mean anything to me. And so I've written Gil guides where I've made anywhere between 5 and 15 million while making the guide. And I stopped doing the thing in the guide. That's me testing it, verifying it works. Every once in a while I'll get a comment saying your guide's out of date, it doesn't work anymore. So I go back and I test it, I make another 5, 10 million, and then it disappears. But there is a steady use that really all I use it for is laziness. So I look at it, and if I have more than 10 million and I need a material for something, I'm leveling up a crafter, I level up all my crafters to cap this expansion, then I just go buy it. And if I have less than 10 million, then I'm more likely to go gather it. 10 million is my comfort number. But that's where I sit, and it depends on what the price of that item is. The problem with these mounts is that they will be a finite amount of Gil. And so the only way this system acts as a long-term sink is if they're continually adding mounts to it, or if these mounts continually scale in cost. If they are something that every time somebody buys one, it ticks up, and then every 6 hours somebody doesn't buy one, it ticks down. Some sort of dynamic system that allows these mounts to go up in price. And they most likely won't do that. They're just going to come in at some static vendor price like any other item.
Is Square Enix like creating their own RMT issue, though, incentivizing more people who might want this and either not know how to get it or just go out and purchase the Gil? I mean, obviously, I think that my first thought would be, what an interesting way to say, look at me. How do you make that much money? Oh, I went to whatever site and just purchased the money. Are they introducing that as a core problem to the game?
I don't think that's the intention. I think there are going to be people that look for a shortcut. If you need to make Gil in this game, then it's more a shift of moving yourself to doing more money making items per week than you spend. And so there are certain tasks that generate money making items. There's certain tasks that don't. And so there's a lot of things in this game that are market prohibited or don't carry value. And so if you're doing items that's the only types of loot generated, you're not going to make any money. And if you do items that are generated on the market, then it starts to become a question of how and when to list. And what are you doing with the 2 free retainers that are included? You don't have to have 10 retainers to make crazy money in this game. You don't have to have multiple characters. You don't have to babysit the auction house. You don't have to have crafters. You don't have to have gatherers. There are lots. It is like experience in this game. When you're leveling up alts, there are optimal methods, but in that entire tier, if you don't like the top 3, move to number 4. Like there are so many ways to make Gil in this game. What I'm excited about is this gives me a reason to do it. What stops me from doing it is that I get bored, and like I don't want to drive the number higher because I find the market board and retainer system very clumsy in this game. And I'm subscribed to World of Warcraft. I'm playing Guild Wars now. They both have better auction houses. They both have eternal infinite uses because they both have the ability to convert their cash into premium currencies and buy things off their store. So if I have a goal that they're a better place for me because of the games I play, there are lots of games out there. EVE Online has the Plex system. And so like this isn't necessarily meant to be a video that devolves into token. I think we've had that conversation. That's a different conversation. But
right, but we have
I've never
a
used
premium
14
store.
as that game.
Right. We
just
have
like
a
if you like
store.
PvP.
Right.
you're fighting a path of resistance by choosing 14 as your PvP game, as opposed to moving to a game that makes it more of a forefront issue.
So that brings me to a really excellent point and a question to everybody here watching this video, is that, like, from that perspective, is there something we want to see evolve in the core aspect of Gil, right? So, like, what systems have you experienced in games that you would like to personally see Final Fantasy XIV start to adopt at some point? We've talked about, and just to kind of touch on it, our conversation around the token is that they need serious economical work within the core game to even consider bringing that in, because there's so much stuff that's just market prohibited. Like, to have that kind of flow of goods in this case, it would, I think, only push people into more selling of services. We see continual issues already with that, where people are selling for real world money and basically creating their own economy, in the game, and that gets reported and memed on itself. And so what I mean by this is food for thought, is that when we bring up the premium store, right? We have a cash shop in Final Fantasy XIV. It is one layer separated from the core game, but it's still present. And in fact, when you go look at what people purchase off of it, it's a lot. There's a lot of things in there. Premium dyes, premium, you have Phantasias, a lot of those types of systems, which generate a really good revenue for Square. I have no issue with it. Like, I love Square, I love this game, and I want it to succeed. And if people want to be able to go and purchase that. So, but the only thing I've always said in the past, and this isn't, people, just make sure you hear me before you judge the words that are coming out of my mouth at the start. If you feel that collecting all the mounts is what you would define as winning, there are people who feel that this game would be considered pay to win if your definition of winning is getting all the mounts. The fact that you can't get every mount in this game without opening up your wallet, I would love to personally see them evolve to, because I've said, like, if they even made it like 1 in a trillionth drop rate within some kind of treasure chest, I would be fine with that. If there was this insane, crazy odd that it might happen once every expansion, one person gets them out, like, that'd be neat. But if they were to go and over the course of, it would probably take years, evolve it to where you could actually take Gil and turn it into Krista, which essentially was seemingly like it was the premium a plan at some point back in the day, and then use that Krista to be able to purchase stuff off the cash, the cash shop. I would be fine with that system. I think that gives Gil a bigger use, and Square Enix becomes an arbiter of that kind of trade, as opposed to people who are just going to go off on third-party websites.
I think that feels more predatory to me.
You do?
I'd rather just call it what it is.
What is it?
I think putting it in the game behind a 600-hour grind and then saying, or for just $20 you can have it right now, feels more predatory to me. Wow. I would rather keep cash mounts.
Okay.
Otherwise, it feels a lot more like a free-to-play game where they give you this gear lust, they give you this FOMO, and they say, Brian's got this thing over here, Brian's got this thing over here. It's a 1 in a trillionth. You could grind that chest to 1 trillion times. It would take just 67 years of doing it more times than you could possibly imagine.
Yeah.
And then you too could have it. Or for $12.99, it could be yours right now. That feels a lot more predatory to me. Knowing when I see a cash shop mount that they was purchased with cash, immediately allows me to separate it as, it's not for me. Like, it just like seeing a mount that's locked behind PvP if you don't like PvP. I think there is a shift between anyone and everyone can get a mount. Anyone can get a mount means any one person can do something and get a mount. These are the titles behind the rankings. These are Garo mounts that were gone. This is the Regalia mount that's gone, might be coming back. This is these mounts. This is the Pterodactyl mount. That's 5.5 million points of Sky Builders contributions across the 8 crafters and 3 gatherers, and it's 500,000 from each one, which means you're probably going to shoot over the mark. So you're talking about somebody getting 6 million points. This is the Shark from Ocean Fishing, which is going to require some effort. Any one person can get those. The idea that any one person can get all of them is much, much harder. And I think that's a mentality shift that we have to, as a community, move away from. The idea that something being locked behind Savage is not fair to players that don't do Savage. It wasn't for you.
Right.
It was designed for this other group of people that are playing the game different. And for them, anything that's locked behind, there's probably Savage Raiders that look at the Pterodactyl mount behind Ishgard Restoration, and they're like, nope. Well, I really like pterodactyls. That's my spirit animal, and that's my favorite thing, and I have stuffed pterodactyls on my bed, and I'm bummed I can't get that because I'm not going to go sit in the firmament for 67 million hours. Like, so I think you have to you have to separate yourself from that, or you're leading yourself down a road of frustration. Always, there will always be something you didn't have. You missed a certain holiday event because you either weren't in the game yet or something was going on in your life, and now that holiday event mount is gone from the game and it's been re-released in the MOG station. You're gonna feel like that was targeting you, like ha ha ha. It wasn't. It's just there. It's a separate thing, and that's okay.
And you
so I
no
would not
idea
look
of
at the
like
total
letting
mounts
somebody
in game. I would look at the total
Yeah.
mounts that are currently acquirable as your form of in-game, if that's it. And so if there's 500 mounts that have ever been released for 14, but only 240 of them can currently be acquired in game, then 240 is your number.
Mhm.
Stop aiming for 500.
But-
Following that theory anywhere in
Yeah.
life is just a road to frustration.
So what would you want to see then as a kind of a scalable Gil kind of thing of continually having value? Because we were talking, especially like in Guild Wars, you can take that your gold, convert it into gems. You can use those gems to buy things off the store or purchase gold, etc. So it has this kind of flowing economy that kind of goes back and forth, that allowing you, if you want, you can go and purchase that for money like you can right now in 14.
Yeah.
So the only thing that is different about 14 at its core right now is that you cannot take in-game currency and turn it into the Final Fantasy XIV's premium currency.
Right.
Those two.
Let's leave it that way, hypothetically. For a
right.
moment, just what are the systems we could have? I like tokens, but let's do no token. Let's leave it separate from the other two games that I compare it to, and let's just say I like tokens, but never a token. Fine, okay. Well, anything that's player driven. So right now in Boja we have fragments, we have loot lock boxes. They are dropped by players. They're useful to players, but they don't have to be used by the player that found them.
Right.
And so having things in the game that other players want that are generated in quantities at a different time and place than they are used, and then managing that supply. One of the problems with materia in the game is, as we've moved to everybody can meld, everybody can retrieve, and as we retrieve, the failure rates are you get them all back except for the very highest level, and it's still at 40%. It's way too frequent we get them back, and then they get generated from basically everything. They just shower from the sky. Everything you do. You ran a roulette. Oh, good for you. You thought about running a roulette. Oh, good for you. We just hand out materia in this game. You log in and it's like, you logged in and /dance. Here's a materia. Like we give materia out for too many things in this game, and so it devalues it as a currency. Now, the moment somebody pentamelds, that changes. The moment somebody pentamelds, it's immediately a shift of, okay, I thought 100 materia was a lot. When people look in my inventory and they see that I have 3,200 gathering materia 8s, they're like, Chris, how do you have 3,200? Because that's a really big number. What if it wasn't? And so giving people endless things. So whether that's loot boxes that drop things that help you clear Savage Boja, right? So it drops these fragments that give you one-time use skills, whether that's pentamelding becoming, why stop there? If it's not for battle content, if it's for gathering content, or if it's for open world content, as we go into 5.55, they're talking about what happens above rank 25 that lets you possibly just hit silly numbers for the sake of it. What if in open world content, I could turn my warrior into a blue mage by octuple melding? It has no effect inside Duty Finder, no effect inside Savage, no effect inside Ultimates. Why not let me? And the rate, and just let me just I got spare money. Let's just drop money into the void. Putting these mounts in there, just continually gilding mounts. Once we're done gilding them, why stop at gilding them? Why stop at turning them yellow? I'm using the word gilded. I don't know what they're going to call it something. There'll probably be a word they throw out.
They have gilded as part of the Magitech mount. So they have the gilded.
Great. And so after gilded, let's do prismatic. Let's do Ozma themed, and we'll take the Ozma texture and we'll throw it on every mount in the game. Oh, well, the Ozma ones cost a billion gil. Fine. And so setting either an infinite amount of things that are easy and quick for them to generate, like Unreal Trials, the ability to kind of re-release content as new content is very cheap for Square, gives us something to grind after while they're working on new stuff. But they're making a profit there, right? They're spending, they're spending an hour generating something that'll take me 10 hours to clear, and that gives them that 9 hours to go do something else. So just kind of like occupy us sometimes, fill things like the 0.5s of the world where people gap out, and just say, hey guys, happy 0.5. Instead of gilding, we're adding prismatic, and just here's 16 mounts, go. And so that's what I would like to see is them to either find something that's cheap and easy for them to stay on top of it, not Aggie Glamour and go, oh, we thought we were going to release these regular, and then we turn this into a gaming kind of thing where he doesn't post as often as he tried. Like, don't do that to yourself. You're putting too much work and it won't get done. Don't do that. Give yourself something that's an achievable amount of work that people will appreciate, and you can just shoot out the door and go, oh crap, I forgot to make the new mounts for this month. Oh, there you go. And just out the door they go.
Yeah.
Or create a system where we are generating the demand for each other.
Mm-hmm.
Create a system that causes us to use the market board where the market board's pulling Gil out and we're all cycling it.
That's why I'm really excited about this, because right
board.
now, based off of that, all of a sudden people are like, hey, do I have enough Gil? I need to start making Gil. So that's just going to help boost up the economy today already.
You have your fragment, your Bojin earring?
I don't. Maybe I've got a lot of Bojin coins. Like, I just sit on things.
Do you have your Bojin earring?
I don't know.
So your Bojin earring is from an achievement for having turned in 1,000 fragments.
Oh, okay.
Have taken 1,000 fragments out of the system. And you get an earring that picks up from the level 70 earring to level 71 to 80, which will be more important moving into the next expansion.
And it will be, absolutely. So thanks. Thank you for the tip. I need to get on that. So anyway, guys, those are our thoughts. Obviously, Gil is I'm excited to see they're adding these. You know, would always love to know, what would you like to see them add? What would you like to see them guild? What would be something to help motivate you? And if you're struggling, guys, be sure you can check out our past, guild guides here. I think Chris is talking about kind of refreshing those as well. So be sure to sub to his Gaming Kinda channel if you haven't already. So post more of that. Kinda. What's up?
I said I post there, kinda.
He posts there, kinda. And that way you can go and check out his content and more. But we're going to wrap up. For Work to Game, my name's Brian.
My name's Chris.
Thanks so much for watching. We hope you have a good one. We hope to see you in our next one. But until then,
take care.